and welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
We're the fucking Morning Throners. Alright, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Morning Throners podcast. We are really excited at jumping into our first podcast for A Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, and we are starting with the prologue chapter. Nelson, take it away.
Prologue is always a great place to start. Get into the book. So you guys might have
It
heard
would
in
make
our
sense,
intro.
right?
It makes sense. You guys might have heard in our intro. We have a new member. We have Kyle with us. Kyle has no idea what Game of Thrones is ever about. He's never heard of it until yesterday when I told him to get the book.
You're full of shit.
That's not true. Kyle, just so everyone's clear, anybody who's coming into this without having seen the show, which I doubt there's very few, beware there may be spoilers. Because while Kyle hasn't seen the show or read the books, he has obviously overheard some things.
Yeah.
One thing that he told me he overheard was the Red Wedding. But I'll let Kyle go ahead and just say what he knows so if you haven't seen the show, get out now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really even know what I know and what I don't know, right? But, so, like, the Red Wedding, everybody, whenever they introduce this, is like, talks about how the first season kills Ned. They're like, so crazy, they build you up for a character, and then, and then they kill him. And I'm like, well, you just ruined, literally, the first season, thanks. So,
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
There's plenty that happens that's that. That's not that. So
it's like, well, you just dropped a big spoiler on me from the beginning.
Yeah.
Red Wedding. What else did I say? I mean, I saw a couple of the more recent episodes.
Yeah, you said you seen some things at the end of season 8.
Yeah.
But again, that is so far past the book that we can't even be sure that any of that's going to be in the books. You said you know about Jon dying and coming back.
Yeah.
And you said you know the Hodor thing.
Yeah, hold
but
the
I
door.
told you that is not. We're not even there
In the
yet
books,
in the books
yeah.
if that will happen.
I forget what else. I feel like
Does sound like a George thing, though, like you said.
Yeah, it sounds like something I'll definitely expect. But so we're gonna do our best to not spoil Kyle. Each episode is gonna be with us going through just the chapter chronologically with Kyle, getting his thoughts and talking about some stuff. Basically, we're gonna pretend that it's our first read through, right? So don't be like leading him on like down straight paths, but just kind of try and remember what you were thinking when you read this the first time. I remember a lot of my early reactions, especially Jeff, because you literally just read this. You can probably tap into that. Kyle, try avoid asking us like direct questions, or we'll just have to be like, "Ooh, I don't know," kind of like the actors do in all those interviews. You'll have to keep reading to find out. But yeah, so we're gonna do just like a summary with Kyle, getting his some of his thoughts on it as a first time perspective, and then he's gonna jump out and we'll do a little spoiler stuff at the end where we talk about, because Jeff, Glow, and myself have all seen or all read all the books, so we'll start going after Kyle leaves. We'll go back and maybe pull out some theories that relate to this chapter and some stuff that appears in later books. But without further ado, let's just get into it. Prologue, A Game of Thrones. This one's an easy one because there's only 3 characters. It's going to be a lot for Kyle to swallow, I think, once we start getting into the meat of it, because there's so many characters in this book. But we only got a few, and most of them don't make it out.
That's definitely one thing I think anyone who starts reading this book is going to struggle with is
all the characters. There's so many different ones.
that's what my wife, said too. She said constantly she had to flip to the back to like keep track of who's in what house and who they are. So I was.
So your wife has read all
that.
these?
Yeah, and she was all about the show too. So.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
we might have at least one viewer. Awesome.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm not giving her the link.
All right, scratch it. Scratch that. All right, so where we got? We'd start off with Garrett or Jared.
As I say, I'm probably gonna butcher all these names too. I'm warning you.
Yeah. Well, I can barely read, so we got Jared, Will, who is the main character or the POV character, I guess, for this chapter, and then Sir Waymore Royce, who is leading this ranging. So, just as somebody who has no idea, well, way less idea of like how the Game of Thrones world works, what did you get out of like what these guys are?
So I also I did know like she's obsessed with Jon Snow, so I know about the Night's Watch or whatever.
Okay.
They watch the Wall, and then I also obviously know about the White Walkers because that's huge. So
So one thing.
So I kind of had more idea of what was going on in this than I would say.
Probably should
Yeah,
have.
then somebody that had no idea. But, yeah.
So it's the White Walker thing is, and I don't know, I don't know if we've talked about this, but like, I don't think, at least in this first chapter, they don't call them White
They're
Walkers.
the
They call them
others,
others.
yeah.
The
But I
others,
mean,
yeah.
it's
I think
obvious
that
who they were
do-
talking about.
I think they do refer to them later as White Walkers in the books. I don't think that's a spoiler. Yeah, so like the whole White Walker other thing, that's like a distinction books show. But yeah,
Okay.
so others, White Walkers, we're gonna use that interchangeably. Basically, the starts off. Will has scouted ahead. They're tracking these wildlings, and he sees that they're all dead, and he comes back to report that to Jared and Waymar. And Jared has been what, like 40 years?
Hey, he's been in there for a while. He's got frostbite all
40,
over his
50
face.
years. Yeah, ears are gone, lost a couple toes and a finger. And then Will, who's the main character, he's pretty like younger. I'm guessing like 30, right? Around like age 30.
I'm thinking even younger, probably like mid-20s.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like the first
he's
thing.
definitely a younger guy.
It's what, his 4th year in the watch or something like that?
Yeah, so maybe even younger than that.
Yeah. And then Waymar Royce, who is the newest recruit, but is the one in charge.
Which again is something that I have
Issue
issues
with.
with, but
We had money.
I don't know if we need to go there for.
He was also raised to lead, so
Yeah,
it
he
kinda
was
makes
rich.
sense. He,
Yeah, because that was my argument. Like, because he was the son of a lesser lord, he probably just got.
Oh, yeah.
He was probably
For sure.
raised with that kind of like Will was a poacher. He didn't know how to lead people or anything like that. And while he was the youngest son, he probably got a little bit of that growing up.
Yeah, I understand that he's definitely probably more skilled at fighting and again the leadership
Yeah.
qualities. But
It's
when
not even that.
it's
He just had
about
connections.
joining the Night's Watch, that
he,
the rules behind it and the properties behind it, I disagree with him just being in charge as he's been there for what, a year or two.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him getting a leadership role because he has that background. The problem I have is this is his first ranging.
yeah.
Like, okay, I'm cool with him being a leader after a year, but you think they would send him out like once or twice to get the feel for the haunted forest or whatever before
Right.
he's
And
put in
maybe
charge.
a senior ranger is with them. I guess they probably want to throw him
Like
out to
Jared,
the fire.
who's been there like
and-
40 years.
Right, and he's just paying Jared no mind. But let's get into the meat of what's going on. So
I just think he's a rich dude, rich kid that got placed here because his dad knows people, and that's why he is the way he is. He says he knows better because he's got all his money and he's had life handed to him. That's my
Yeah.
kind of
he is a pompous little asshole. That's
take
for
on
sure.
him.
Yeah.
Was
And basically, when Will comes back and reports that these wildlings are dead, Garrett is like, let's get the fuck out of here. Something's not right. I've been doing this for a while and something's not feel right. And Will is like, yeah, I second that. And Waymar is just like, you guys are soft. I'm not going back empty handed on my first, like leading my first range, and we're going to keep going. And this is where we find out that even though he might have been better trained to Lord, he is kind of cocky, right? He's brought the wrong horse. He's using a knife.
big ass war horse. Yeah.
He's using his sword when like Will tells him he should be using a knife because they're in the middle of the woods. That kind of stuff. So he's making mistakes. So like I guess the argument of him being a good leader is
Out the
one
window.
thing, but
And something else, when you're with seasoned veterans and they're both scared,
yeah, take some advice.
yeah, take some advice and just use some common sense. You don't need it's kind of like the fact that you don't need to win the war today. You can come back tomorrow and figure it out, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
live to fight another
that's
day.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying. He's rich. He's not used to hearing other people.
I like him though because he's right. Like,
In what way?
I mean, maybe he's not right because like the wildlings, I guess, were dead or maybe weren't dead because we don't see them. We never see the wildlings that he's talking about again.
yeah,
So we can't say Waymar's not right and Will was wrong. They didn't stay there, right?
right.
Also, he's a pretty good fighter. We'll get into it at the end, but he doesn't like slack off when he was
Yeah.
1v1 with this other. So they go down. They finally Will leads them to the place. It's nighttime. They say the moon's out. It's a crescent moon, and Waymar tells Garrett to watch the horses. Then him and Will go up the hill, and Will's being real sneaky with a knife. And this is where he like says, "Hey, you should be using a knife, not a sword, because of the trees." Will like sneaks up on his belly underneath this tree where he's like he has like a foot of crawl space, right, and looks down over the clearing and sees all the wildlings are gone. And the one thing he notices is there's still a battle axe left behind.
Yeah, and that would be expensive for them,
Yeah.
right? Or valuable.
Yeah, they wouldn't have left that.
So what do you think happened then, Kyle?
Well, I mean, obviously they were killed, and then so this comes back to me knowing kind of about the White
Knowing some
Walkers. Yeah,
stuff.
so
I mean, I feel like it's not a far stretch to realize this, especially by the end of the chapter,
well,
right?
Yeah, I guess after Royce comes back. Not to jump ahead too
that's
far,
kind of. But at this point, reading through, I guess the first time you'd be like, "Oh, what happened? Did they actually leave?"
I mean, I would have assumed something would have taken their bodies. I would have assumed they were already dead, though. I think is where I would have been.
Yeah, but what's weird is, so do you guys remember what Garrett thinks killed them?
The cold.
Right?
Cold, yeah.
And
So-
they talk about how the wall was
wall was
crying,
weeping.
and
So it couldn't
so it
have been
wasn't
that
cold enough.
But when the others kill Waymar, there's blood in the snow, and they say like the blood almost like is like glowing. It's so bright in the snow. But he like Will admits that he saw no blood for the wildlings, right? So it's not like the others walked up and stabbed the wildlings like they did Waymar. There's something going on there, right? So maybe it
Yeah.
was the cold. If there's no blood, what else?
Maybe they just the whites or the others, whatever we're referring
Choked
to
him
them
out
as,
or
just
something.
came up and strangled them.
Well,
or
yeah,
while they
didn't
were
he
sleeping?
strangle Will at the end?
Yeah, I guess when he woke up, he strangled Will. That's a good
Yeah.
call.
I don't know.
Yeah, so basically Will's hiding and he realizes something is wrong because all these bodies are gone. And then like Waymar, I just like picture like him like slashing through through the
Being-
trees.
being loud as fuck.
Yeah, just super loud. Yeah, like even if Waymar when he gets to the top of the ridge says like, "Oh, your men are gone," but like there's no way he can see that while he's slashing. Like if he thinks that there's people potentially still here, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah,
no, he probably came to the side of the tree and was looking out into
He's a
the
tool.
the bowl or
Yeah.
wherever they are and saw that it was empty and was like, "Fuck you shitty
Trees.
spy!" Yeah.
So
Get
he's
out
up-
of your hiding spot. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so he's like, get out from under the tree, quit being a pussy, get up on top of the tree and tell me what you see. See if you see any campfires. Oh, speaking of campfire, the one thing we missed is before Waymar and Will come up the hill, Garrett asked, like, okay, I'll light a fire while you guys are gone.
Yeah.
And
Waymar's like, no.
yeah, are you stupid?
What are you
And
doing?
He's like, that'll attract our enemies, which we're going to see. And he's like, yeah, but keep some enemies away. Bears, dire wolves,
Others.
and others.
Is that
Yeah,
capitalized? I forget.
with the capital.
Not there.
Yeah.
It's- I don't think it's capitalized there. It's capitalized later when Will says the others made no noise. Right, so Will's-
Yeah, I don't-
you're
So we're back there. Will's climbing the tree, and it says he takes his dagger out of his mouth and takes his dagger out of his like holster and puts it in his mouth.
Yeah.
And like, what the hell is he doing? He's climbing up a tree. What does he think he's gonna fight? Like an evil owl? Like I get it, maybe on the way down. I don't get how that is helpful when climbing a tree at all. I don't get the point of that.
I'm gonna say
Maybe he might need to cut something while he's climbing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
true. I was gonna say I don't know that that's a detail. To
Yeah,
get
I
hung
mean,
up
you
on
don't know
either, though.
where his
It's
where his holster is or whatever it's called. If it's in a bad spot, while you're climbing, it's probably just easier to take it out of your mouth than to pull it out of your back or in. I don't know.
yeah, I guess. Like I don't know. So then he's looking down and like Waymar now can almost sense something's wrong, and he like doesn't he like shout out and say like show yourself or something like that, and that's when Will says like the woods made a reply, like the rustle of the trees, the rustle of an icy stream, the hoot of a snow owl or something like that, and then he says the others made no noise, and that's when others is capitalized.
Are you
And then-
following your notes right now, or are you just kind of going off?
I see it
Just
right
going off
here.
memory.
It says others made no sound. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what happens is Waymar's got his sword out and he's like this guy, one other steps in front of him and he sees him and he says like charge at me or something, and they start fighting. And while they're fighting, 5 more come out all around Waymar. But Will says that if he might have felt their cold, the cold that came with them, but he definitely didn't see them. But this is why, like, you guys are hating on Waymar. He going toe to toe with this thing, which is like a mystical magic thing with pale flesh and icy armor, he's doing all right.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
he also attacks him basically with no fear. He didn't like run away right away or anything. He fucking tried fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he definitely wasn't a pussy, but he's also still
A
really
douchebag.
stubborn and
Yeah,
stupid.
he's still a douchebag.
Yeah, he is a tool, but he is I guess a brave tool.
No, so let's read these quotes that you noted, because
Okay.
they're pretty cool descriptions of the others, and you know,
Yep.
they're a pretty sweet thing. So, do you want to read them or Glow? I don't care.
I don't have him up, so you got it, Nils.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, this is when we first see the other. Right after, I think he says he made no sound. A shadow emerged from the dark of the wood. It stood in front of Royce. Tall it was, and gaunt and hard as old bones, with flesh pale as milk. Its armor seemed to change color as it moved. Here it was white as new-fallen snow, there black as shadow, everywhere dappled with the deep gray-green of the trees. The patterns ran like moonlight on water with every step it took. So this thing looks pretty friggin' sweet.
Yeah, and it doesn't even sound like it's an undead thing. It could just be a different monster out there. You know what I mean? It doesn't say it looks dead or it's rotted flesh. It's a pretty humanish looking monster.
Yeah, I'm
You know?
thinking it's like along the lines of like elf, dwarf, like
Yeah.
from like kind of Lord of the Rings. It's kind of just like its own race, and it's like
Yeah.
a weird race. But yeah, I don't get the picture that it's like a dead thing. At least this isn't a dead thing come back.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other quotes I have is about the sword, but it says it's got like a super sharp sword, and they talk about how they make no noise.
Yeah, I got it.
It almost disappeared when I went
I
sideways.
mean, they say that it's tall and gaunt and with flesh that's pale, so that's kind of
Yeah, so
deathly looking. And these are the White Walkers, so they're not technically dead. So
I was wondering though, reading this, like how much skin is showing, because he says it has skin pale as milk, but armor. Like if it's wearing armor, it can't be like full.
It's probably
plate mail armor.
hands and face, probably.
Right,
Or-
like chainmail armor.
well, I mean, the armor.
there's
sounds
leather
like
armor.
It's ice covering it.
I got you, but it's ice armor. But like the fact that he's making note of his skin, I don't get how much armor could you be wearing if
I mean,
you can
like
tell the color
plate
of his
armor,
skin.
but his hands are out or his face is out. right?
Hands, hands and face, I would say.
Okay.
But I would assume
Probably.
like metal plate, but instead it was icy, angular.
Yeah.
That was what I.
So what did you think of this armor? So me, Jeff, and Glow have talked about this already. So what did you think about his armor, Kyle? Because I had a totally wrong like picture in my head the first time. I thought it was like camo. Like it was basically just like colored like camouflage, and that's why it has all these different
And I
colors.
thought it was like multifaceted, like a diamond, like jewelly cut.
That's
at
how I
angles.
think of it. Yeah.
That's what
And
they were
just
saying. Like, it was
pulling-
probably just like actually
Pulling the
looked like
reflections
ice.
off of
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Like ice or glass or diamond. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the next quote I have here is this. So that's when Waymar yells and tells it to come no further, and he gets his sword ready. And then the wind completely stops. So they control the weather. We know
Yeah,
that it
that's
gets
one
cold
thing.
when they show up, but can they completely control all of it?
Cold. Did it say anything if it got darker too?
So it was nighttime.
It was already
and
night, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we don't know, but there was moonlight out, and they said that he saw like the moonlight shimmering off the armor.
Yeah.
But this is when we get the next quote. It says, "The other slid forward on silent feet. In its hand was a longsword like none that Will had ever seen. No human metal had gone into the forging of that blade. It was alive with moonlight, translucent, a shard of crystal so thin that it seemed almost vanish when seen on edge. There was a faint blue shimmer to the thing, a ghost light that played around its edges, and somehow Will knew that it was sharper than any razor." And this is when Waymar says, "Dance with me." And Waymar's like, "All right." And although, like, kind of like what we've been saying, although he's been hating on him the whole time, thinking he's like a cocky douche, he's like, okay, he's not a little boy anymore. That's a pretty
Yeah.
boss move.
And how about Will just scared shitless up in the
Yeah,
tree?
he can't even move, can't yell for him or anything. He's all puss.
I mean, what other play is there though? I mean, like
I'm not jumping down to help out. Like kind of like what Jeff said earlier, live to
live to fight another day. I
fight
think
another day.
This defiant, brave Waymar is actually making a rookie mistake and hanging around here. I wouldn't.
Yeah, Will's probably just thinking like, I fucking told you so. I
Yeah,
told you.
and I
you
think it's
should've turned
something.
back."
It's something to note that Waymar was able to fight this wight for a little bit with his steel sword.
Yeah.
So it's something where Will says that he just saw that he was doing okay, but the sword started frosting up, like
Yeah.
it was going to fail him, but it didn't fail him right away. So it's something to note for sure.
Yep. Yeah, so then the other ones come out and they make no noise. And again, I was trying to figure out like how long did this fight go on? And he says that he blocks 3 blows and then takes a few steps back before he blocks a few more. And that's when they say that the sound of them isn't even like steel on steel. It's like animals screaming.
Yeah, it's like a weird ass sound.
I think like a high pitched sound at the edge of hearing.
Banshee noise.
Yeah.
And how about the others talking to each other?
Yeah. So their language is like, it sounds like ice cracking.
Unbelievable. And they're like mocking and laughing. They have personalities. I think that's one of the coolest things about.
Yeah, so maybe it's
this
not
chapter.
a hive mind type of thing like I thought it was.
So, yeah, but there is a part about when they say that all of them moved together.
Yeah,
Like they all
that's
stepped
true.
forward as if a signal had been given, but there wasn't. At least no signal that Will saw.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. It says the Watchers moved forward together as if some signal had been given. Swords rose and fell in deathly silence.
I'm curious to hear what Kyle has to say about how they move together and their communication and everything.
So, I mean, I think that's another thing that if the show is on, and I mean, you don't have to answer that, but I kind of have an idea. Like, I mean, that was the one episode of the show that I've seen is when they kill the Night King. So.
Okay, so one thing I'm going to say about the show, the others.
Well, they don't
in
do that in the show obviously, yet, or in the book.
Show
yet.
versus book. There are way more White Walker sightings in the show.
I mean, I've seen them once, so.
I'm just saying, like, I think in the books I think there's a lot more mystery, at least still surrounding. And who knows, maybe everything does go the exact same as it did in the show. But, like, at this point, we don't know basically any more than this chapter. Not much more than this chapter.
This chapter is
the White
about all we
Walkers.
got. So.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of people like these books is because it starts off super fantasy heavy, like magic. There's something weird about these guys, and then it just goes back to basically medieval times for 3 books. You know, with very little actual like fantasy
sprinkled
magic type
dragons.
stuff.
Which is kind of part of the reason I haven't read him yet, because that didn't really.
You read real fantasy.
Yeah, that didn't really interest me all that much. Was that side of it? So that was kind of why I've been avoiding it. I'm not into that medieval stuff.
You'll
usually.
get hooked.
I'll read them. It's already happening, but
It's already happening.
Yeah, so basically the last part of this chapter is Will comes down from the tree. After he waits a long time, and he goes down to the tree, and this is where he sees the shattered sword. And I would have thought, like, when you shatter, like one of these sword shatters like this, that it's kind of like when you dip something in
liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, and then like smash it and it like breaks apart.
Yeah.
But this, it says like the hilt is twisted like a tree struck by lightning. Right?
Yeah, just
That
like some
isn't-
crazy force coming off of the other sword.
That's not just ice.
Like an energy. It had to be an energy. You know what
like
I'm saying?
magic. That's got to be some type of magic type stuff.
Well, and
Yeah.
and I mean, at the same time, though, like lightning when it hits a tree, like all the bark blows off, and it will twist it. Like I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like when they hit, that's still kind of the same image I got.
Well,
And
so
then
I
You
think
think, like,
I don't think the other was trying at all during the fight,
Yeah.
and then towards the end he's like, "All right, time to fucking finish this," and he
smashed
actually
it
put
once.
energy into it,
Okay.
and that's how it fucked up the hilt.
That's the thing is, I guess there's 2 thoughts. Either A, the sword was slowly getting colder and colder as it fought this like magic sword thing, and then it just got too much and shattered eventually. But it does seem weird, kind of like what Glow's saying. It does say like Waymar like yells for Robert and charges him, and then swings, and he said like the other
Blocks it
parry was
lazy.
lazy.
Yeah.
And that's when it shatters. So like, what was he just like toying with him the whole time? And he's like, all right, get out of here. And that's when he put the magic, all right, blow your sword up twist into it. I don't
Probably.
know.
I think they were playing with him.
I think
I
could
think they were
agree
playing
with
with
that.
him.
Yeah, I think when he put the effort in, that's when he shattered it.
Yeah. And then so Will comes down, sees the handle, and he's like, "This will be my proof." Like, and that's what another thing that makes me think it's not just like a cold sword, because there's a lot of things that could break a sword, off, like break the sword off of a hilt.
Yeah.
But like the fact that he said it's twisted, he's like, "Oh, this will be proof." Like, think about if he came back with
still
that.
come back with a
and he's like,
broken sword. I think it's still kind of proof that something happened to the guy that owns the sword. Right?
"Well, yeah, but not that something like magical
True.
happened to him."
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
If
it's still gonna be
that's-
hard to convince people, that's for sure.
yeah.
But
Yeah. So so he sees that and he turns around and he sees your boy Waymar back alive with so when his sword broke, it like shattered into a bunch of splinters, and one of those pieces went to his eye.
Oh yeah.
And so he has like one of his eyes is like gushing blood, and the other one is it's like blue, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It says, his fine clothes were a tatter, his face a ruin, a shard from his sword transfixed the blind, white pupil of his left eye.
So it doesn't say that they're blue. I guess. Oh no, it does say the right eye was open, the pupil turned blue. It saw.
It saw.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's creepy as fuck.
And then he reaches out and chokes him. He says that he can feel the cold even through the gloves. But like that's also could be because he's also been waiting in a tree. He said for a long time.
I think they're
while
making
his
it
dead body
clear
was
that
laying in the cold.
he feels he shouldn't have been able to feel the cold though.
Okay.
Finest moleskin, sticky with blood, yet they're still icy to the touch.
Yeah, but I don't care how nice your gloves are. If you go lay them in the snow for a half hour and then
If they're
put them on and choke somebody, it's gonna feel cold,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
That's true. That's true.
I get the point, and maybe that's
I
what
think
he's saying.
it's
But
supernaturally cold.
exactly, I think he's saying that they should be warm with blood still, but they're not. Is what he's literally. He said they're sticky with blood, yet they're still cold.
all right. I mean, that's what I thought too. I just wanted to know if you guys thought that maybe Will's just being a pussy, and they're like slightly chilled gloves, not freezing gloves. All right. Well, that's the end of this chapter. Overall thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean it was a chapter. I don't know, it was so short. There wasn't much in there.
Yeah.
So.
These early
That's
chapters
not
are
e-
short.
that's
Yeah,
not
not
even
a lot of
short.
substance in
Yeah,
this one.
it's kind of like okay.
And again, like we said, 3 characters.
Interesting.
Two of them don't make it out. One of them maybe we never see again. Who knows? You have to come back next chapter to find out.
I think
with
it's
that-
definitely something to pique interest, though. You know, just from this, it's
Yeah,
you have a lot of mystery. What actually just
It
happened?
set the tone.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the rest of the books, you're just thinking like, what the fuck's going on with these things? It just kind of plants a seed in the back of your mind. All right, but that's the end of the prologue for Game of Thrones. Now me, Jeff, and Glow are going to talk about some of the stuff in here that relates to the later books. So stick around if you have read the books and want to hear a little theory discussion. If not, join us next time for Chapter 1 of Game of Thrones, Bran.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
All right, we are here for the post. I guess what would you call this, Jeff?
We'll call it the
Spoiler
the
portion?
Spoiler free. We're
Okay, spoiler-free
after the
portion.
spoiler-free
Spoiler
portion.
alert.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! Yeah. So if you are still listening,
Spoiler
and-
alert! Spoiler alert! That'll play.
Just
every
cut
time.
that. Just cut that in at
Okay.
the beginning. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Yep. All right. So we're gonna talk about spoilers. In the later chapters, as we keep going, I'm sure these sections will become more in depth as we talk about different theories and stuff like that. But early on, there's not gonna be much to talk about. This chapter is unique, and we kind of mentioned it to Kyle. Some of the stuff we're trying to keep from him, but we don't. This is like one of like. How many times, not whites, how many times do we see white walkers, others, in the books? Is this the only time? No, Sam kills one.
Sam kills one.
Sam talks. Yeah, and at the Fist of the First Men.
That's white.
Yeah, do they? I don't think
Okay.
White Walkers are there.
Bran, when he goes
Until
into
Sam
the
kills one.
Three-Eyed Raven's hole, those are whites.
Yeah. Okay.
There might
so
be
those
literally.
we're saying those are all undead people.
Yeah.
Not. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
There might
Quick
literally
question:
be
do
two.
whites use weapons? No, right?
I don't think so.
No proof of that
In the books, no proof. Every time we've seen them, Fist of the First Men and Bran going into the Three-Eyed Ravens, no weapons, and the fact that this guy left his axe
Battle
behind.
axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Royce had a shard in his eye, he probably had something near him that he could have stabbed Will with, and
and he
decided
strangles
to
him
choke
instead.
him.
Yeah. So yeah, this chapter not much to talk about. The White Walkers, we kind of got pretty in depth with Kyle. Even though it's his first time through, we read all the quotes and everything. The one thing I'm going to point out is Sir Waymar Royce. That name ring a bell for you guys? Royce.
Yep.
Yeah.
Family of the Erie.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
his second in command, basically, right, Lord?
So there's I think
Master
there's
of
actually
Arms.
I think there's actually 2 branches of Royce family in the area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
One of them are the
them
keeper of
is
the gate, of the moon or whatever, the very bottom gate, the first house. That's where Lord Mester Royce is from. They're like a secondary branch. They're not actually the lead Royces. The lead Royces, or Bronze Jan Royce, is the Lord of House Royce, and he is he's one of the head Lord Declarant, kind of, when the people come later and talk to Littlefinger about like why he's in control and why he shouldn't be.
Right.
Bronze Jan is kind of like the most against Littlefinger.
Yeah.
So again, doesn't seem to have any relation. This guy doesn't really make it that far, but just kind of interesting that when you reread, you notice stuff like, oh, this guy. They said he's he's a younger son of a lord, but we know it's probably Bronze Jan, or maybe even Nestor, because Nestor Royce is so.
I was kind of thinking that he was their brother, but
Oh, that
maybe.
age? I thought he was younger. So.
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
But I guess
people,
if
people
he's,
seem to keep having sex and having kids if they're.
yeah. So I guess you can
I
have
feel
brothers.
like people aren't like, oh, we're too old to have kids anymore.
Yeah, Walter
And,
Frey.
Keep trying to push him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Walter Frey's a perfect example. He's got like so many kids he doesn't even know their names. But yeah, so we get that.
That's my goal.
One thing we'll point out here, because it doesn't really matter. Everybody who's listening to this should have already read. It covers this and the next chapter, Bran. But Garrett, the one who gets away and the one who gets decapitated in Bran 1, gets south of the wall.
How is he getting there?
Does he go to Castle Black, chill at Castle Black, and then desert from Castle Black, or does he know?
No shot.
No,
No, he's too freaked out.
because
If you're that scared to desert, you're not going back to your boys and not saying anything.
okay, but
I don't
does
understand why he didn't go and say shit though.
But how does he know a way around? I think he doesn't go to them, because I think there's we'll refresh our memory in a few chapters, but when Benjen comes to Winterfell, when the king's
Yeah.
there, I don't know. I think like Benjen doesn't know. Like I'm pretty sure Benjen like says something that insinuates that he didn't come to Castle Black. Right.
Right.
Just
I think
straight
he
deserted.
asked Ned about a deserter.
About it, yeah.
What did the deserter say?
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't come to Castle Black. So which leads the question: how did he get past the 700-foot ice wall?
Yeah.
And does it have anything to do with the direwolf? He doesn't seem to have a horse.
Yeah. Do you think he just rode the direwolf?
So
was, like,
the only
riding?
way that we know through the wall, besides Castle Black, that isn't frozen shut, is Glow.
that tunnel?
Very insightful.
I
Yeah.
forget what it's called. I forget what the tunnel that
The tunnel under the Night Fort, which is another
I
one
was
of the
gonna say the
castles.
Night Fort, but I
Okay.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, the tunnel under the Night Fort at Castle Black, which is the one that Sam uses to come back from north of the wall, and Bran uses to get north
there.
of the wall. North of the wall. Bran
you
uses to
really-
get north of the wall.
Do you really think Jared and the direwolf are connected?
Nah, I don't know, but it is weird that if the direwolf is south of the wall, how did it get there?
I think it
Yeah.
got down there around the same time Jared did.
Yeah,
And
I
died
mean,
through the
right
wall.
away. Just
Through the
awful
wall.
luck.
Well, no, so it's a 9-day ride at least from the wall to Winterfell. I forget how long it is. I think it's like
2
18
weeks.
days.
2
from
weeks.
What, yeah, Tyrion rode it. So,
Yeah,
but
it's a fortnight ride.
he doesn't
from the
have a
wall to
horse, so
Winterfell.
he was walking.
All right,
Or
I understand
riding the
that,
direwolf.
but there's nothing to say that the direwolf and Jared came at the same time.
Yeah,
at all,
that's
ever.
true. That's true.
So
But it's around the
I'm
same.
more of the camp that the direwolf. I don't know. Maybe deserter in the past found a pup, brought it over, and it's just been chilling there. But then again, how did it get pregnant? Is it pregnant just from a regular wolf?
I think plot-wise, it doesn't make any sense that they came together, right? I think plot-wise, it makes a little more sense that they came together. The two things that shouldn't know how to get south of the wall undetected kind of did, both around the same time. It's kind of suspicious, right? But then the other thing is, like, it doesn't really, like, why would they be connected at all, right? It kind of makes sense, like, logically that, okay, you can't get past the 700-foot wall, but two things did at the same time. Like, okay, maybe they, like, whatever happened to one happened to the other. But it also, like, I don't see the relation at all. I don't see why that would be important for the story, even if they did, you know?
Yeah.
So, again, like I said, not much to cover in this chapter for spoilers. The one thing is when Waymar Royce makes his final charge at the White Walker, he yells for Robert. Who is Robert?
Glad you want to get this one right since
It's
you
either
failed.
Aaron or Baratheon.
Okay, so like we pointed out earlier, Waymar
It's probably Baratheon though.
Probably Baratheon, but because Waymar is from the Eyrie, that's kind of what makes Robert Aaron.
Yeah, but John was the.
But John's like this guy doesn't know John's dead, so yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't really make sense. Why would he be?
Yeah, because he's not
for
the Lord of the Vale.
Yep.
Uh,
So probably Robert Baratheon. Makes most sense, but yeah, potentially
King of the Andals.
first men in the Rhoynar. First of his name, ruler of 7 kingdoms.
I think something else that's noteworthy is that the sword, kind of, we talked about it with Kyle, because it's not a huge spoiler, but his steel didn't break right away.
Yeah.
Now, when they go in the future to fight whites and others, which doesn't even happen in the books to this point, are they going to be able to kill whites with
steel?
Steel.
Is it just like so again, this is something we did talk about a little bit. If it is kind of what Glow was saying, that they can just put a little something magic into their swing that makes a steel shatter, then what you said is a no-go, right? They'll win every fight. But if it is the fact that the sword just slowly gets more frosty over time until it breaks, then that leads me to believe that if you got lucky in a fight early and say you get a clean stab into the belly of a White Walker, into the belly of an other, right?
Yeah.
With a steel sword before he's parried anything. Does that kill him, or does the steel shatter on contact?
We don't know how.
We have no clue.
Steel will react to him because.
And I think if we hadn't watched the show, this wouldn't even be a question. Like that obviously,
Right.
like we would think that obviously kills him.
Like, yeah, this guy just lost the fight and didn't come close to stabbing him. I think it's weird that in the show we never even saw a steel
Sword hit a white.
Another.
White Walker.
There's no chance of it.
I do believe that even in the books, a steel sword can't kill a white, right? Because doesn't John cut off the hand of the one in the Mormont's room, and that's when he realizes, Ghost rips its arm off, and that's when he realizes he has to throw the thing at it, and the hand keeps moving.
And I mean, the Hound, when they take him to,
I'm talking books.
We're talking books.
Okay.
Like swords. We don't know how they affect White Walkers, but we do know that even in the books, it seems like the whites are, no matter how many pieces you break them into, each piece is still animated, it's still alive on its own, right?
Yeah.
So that's why steel can't kill them, but like there's something magic about. Again, have we seen Valyrian steel kill?
No.
We don't know Valyrian steel. We don't know Dragonglass. All we know is fire.
We know fire kills whites, and we know Dragonglass kills others. But we don't know if Dragonglass even kills whites.
Yeah.
Again, this is what we point out with Kyle. We've known fucking nothing about the White Walkers, and like, when you read these books, you kind of have to try and put the show completely out of your mind, because it does make you like. In my head, Valyrian steel is the only way to kill an other, but we have no idea if that's true.
It would be really, really crazy thing for George to change the elements of what kills and what,
even fire, right? Dragon fire. And this is what we see in the show. Dragonfire can't kill a white. Is that true in the books? Maybe. But we have no clue. We've never seen a white with fire. Oh, a White Walker. Yeah, we've never seen a White Walker with fire.
Now, do we think that the Dragonfire couldn't kill? Maybe the Night King just possessed something different?
Yeah, and is the Night King different than a normal other? Like, there's not even a Night King in the books.
Yeah. Is there even a Night King?
Yeah, exactly. That's another one, too.
There's like a legend of the Night's King, which has to do with the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, but that has nothing to do with others, right?
Yeah. Which makes me really think, all right, the show, when was the Night King introduced in the show? If George was really helping them out through this ending, he's got to be there some way.
It would have to be so early in Winds of Winter, because I think the first time we see the Night King is either the baby, right?
Yeah, it's the baby. It's the baby.
But we don't even know that guy's at that point. We have no idea that he's the leader. He's just a White Walker, right?
Yeah. With
the only time we realize he's the leader in the show,
he kind of looks like he has a crown on his head with horns.
Yeah, but I think the first time we realize he's the leader in the show for real is when Bran gets touched by him.
Right.
And at that point, Bran is with the Three-Eyed Raven, which is kind of right where
we're at.
dance ends. So it could be maybe like one of the first scenes in Winds.
Yeah, it's like talking with Bran, and he's learning about who the true enemy is, and that's
I mean,
the other.
it needs to be soon. We got 2 books left.
We might have 3 books left.
I think it's gonna be 2.
We'll see. I don't think characters have been going away from each other for 5 books. You think it's going to take 2 for them to get back together and settle everything?
I mean, he said that
it took Tyrion
he said the Winds of Winter could kill a rat. Like,
What?
it's 1,300 pages or something like that. It's huge.
Oh, could kill a rat. Well, no, Dance with Dragons. He had to shorten it. He wanted to have all the battles in the end of Dance. He wanted the Battle Marine, the Battle Winterfell, both to be in the end of Dance, but they were like, no, this is too long. You have to cut that out. That's why he released a lot of sample chapters from some of that stuff.
When the fuck's he releasing the books? Jesus Christ.
He said that so real quick, new George R. R. Martin watch. The New Zealand Airlines told him that they would fly him out and give him a private cabin in New Zealand and say that it would be like peaceful and he would be able to, if it would help him finish the books. And he's like, I've been to New Zealand. It's too pretty. Like it would do nothing but distract me. But I'll be in New Zealand in July 2020 for some sci-fi convention. And if I don't have Winds and Winter in hand, you can lock me up and like literally put me into a cabin until I finish.
And that's a whole year.
It's a whole year, but that gives us a perfect amount of time to podcast up to Winds of Winter. Actually, there's no way we have enough time to podcast up to Winds of Winter in a year. So
No way.
We'll figure out what happens when Winter comes out when we get there, if we get there.
We all know exactly what we're doing.
We're reading Winds of Winter and leaving Kyle in the dust.
Yeah.
Kyle in the dust.
All right, so yeah. Besides that, anything else? I don't have much. We kind of covered a lot of this stuff with Kyle because it's not spoilers because we literally don't know. We know about as much as he does of others at this point.
Yeah, I think the Bran we could talk a lot more about the next chapter, which is Bran.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of stuff to talk about there. So we'll see you guys in the next one. If you listen this far, we love you, and tune in.
Check us out on Spotify, and if you don't like Kyle, let us know. We'll kick him out. We'll kick him to the curb.
Yeah, he'll never hear this.
It's always tough bringing in a 4th.
Yep. Always. Also, because this is the section where we're going to start talking about theories. If you got any theories you want us to discuss, send them in, and we'll talk about them when they come up in the story. I'm a huge proponent of Dany's from Dorne, and Jon Snow is not actually a Targaryen.
Boo.
I'm kind of hoping now that Jon's not a Targaryen too. Because if it's going to end the way the show does, I'm going to be really pissed off. So
hopefully it doesn't.
There was no point. If he is a Targaryen, I think it'll have more meaning in the books because him being a Targaryen in the show was not necessary. Like, it
didn't matter at all.
It just
made it literally could have been a rumor that he was a Targaryen and Dany would have still could have.
Or if that doesn't get brought up at all, then Dany never has a relationship. If they just keep the whole relationship with them out, then Jorah and Missandei is enough to make her go crazy on her own. So yeah, I think though if it is true, I think it'll definitely be done better. And if it's not true, it'll be way cooler.
Yeah.
All right. Check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter. Follow us, like us. See you next time.
See you next time.